Hello, good evening and Assalamualaikum to Dr. Shikin. My name is Muhammad Syamil bin Zulkifli and today I will be presenting to you about the topic in which I have chosen, inversion. So what is an inversion? So in English grammar, the normal word order usually consists of a placement of a subject before the verb. However, there are also instances where the sentence are reversed. This is what we call an inversion. So we put the verb before the subject. Okay, so for inversion, we usually encounter it during if we read a novel, a script, a prose, a poem. Those are the types of literature in which the use of inversion is heavily encouraged to make sure the reading is more interesting and to make it more alluring, I would say. So, there are two main types of inversion. The first one is when the verb comes before the subject. For example, in the living room, sat Michael. So, the verb sat is put before the subject Michael, and that can be categorized as an inversion. So, the normal word order would be Michael sat is sitting in the living room. That is the normal word order. So, the second types of inversion is when the auxiliary comes before the subject and the rest of the verb phrase follows the subject. For example, hardly had he felt such a feeling. So the auxiliary verb come before the verb phrase. The auxiliary had comes before the verb felt such a feeling, and that is the second types of inversion. There are also inversion that are used after negative adverbials. So to invert a sentence this way, simply put adverbial at the beginning and change the normal position of the subject and auxiliary verb. For example, we can use it never, rarely, seldom, hardly, scarcely, not only, barely, uh, yeah, and so on. So if we were to put it in a sentence, never in a million years would he talk. Hardly had he seen him these days. And the last one would be not only does she hate his face, she also hates his personality. So we can use it after negative adverbials to imply that the sentence is having a negative element. And we can also use inversion in a time relationship after negative adverbial. Time emphasis can also be used after negative adverbs to create an inversion of sentence. Barely any time had passed when it was time to continue work. So we use the words barely, hardly, scarcely, not only after, and then we put when, will, or did to imply that there's a time relationship in that sentence. So if we look at the second sentence, not until you apologize will I see you again. So that means she won't see him not until the man apologized to her, something like that. Or only after apologizing did he gets to see her again. So that's it. It's an inversion used in regards to time relationship after negative adverbial. And we also use negative adverbs to tell frequency in inversion. To do that, simply invert the subject and auxiliary or modal verbs when using negative adverbs in front for emphasis. So never have I felt such joy to imply that the joy is overwhelming and he had never felt it before. We can use that word. Or seldom had I seen him sweep his courtyard to imply that to emphasize that the action is rarely taken by the subject. Or we can also use it to describe infrequency of things. Little did she know about his father's sacrifice. To describe that, to emphasize that she did not know about that. Or nowhere was a burger stall open during this hour. And then there is general emphasis with phrases that use only. So if we were to use only, put only in the front of the sentence and we can use it like this. Only after you suffer the same fate will you know what she went through. Or only by doing this will she ever understand it. Okay, moving on to the next slides. Okay, so we can also use inversion with mixed conditional in a sentence. So for the first conditional, we can change the word if with should. So if you were to write if you wish to come with me, we can just simply change it with should you wish to come with me. And then moving on to the second conditional. If we were to kill him, we can change it to were we to kill him. And then moving on to the third conditional, we can replace if with had. So we can, if we were to write, if we had thrown him against the spike, he would have died. We can change it to had we thrown him against the spike, he would have died. So remember, for conditional one, change the word if with should. For conditional two, replace the word if with were. And for conditional three, replace the word if with had. And then you will have a good sentence of inversion. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, we can also use inversion with result clause. To do that, we can just start a sentence with a so or such and then put that in the middle. So to demonstrate it, look at the first examples. So overjoyed are he by her fiance's answer that he danced in front of other guests. So the sentence put the word so in the front of the sentence and then followed by the that in the middle of the sentence. So overjoyed are he by her fiance's answer and then he put that in the middle and then continue it with he danced in front of other guests to imply that the result of the fiance's being happy with her fiance's answer is by dancing in front of other guests. And then we can take a look at the other examples. Such a cowardly man he was that he froze in place. Such a cowardly man he was, and then he used that he froze in place to imply that he was frozen in place because he was a cowardly man. And then that is the inversion form of the sentence. And we can also use neither or nor in the inverted sentence in the beginning to introduce a negative addition to a negative result. And this is only for a negative elements in a sentence. Even after eating supper, Hamid still couldn't get full, nor could he sleep. So use even after eating supper and then followed by nor could he sleep, even after getting a meal before sleeping. And then the next example would be for a long time after graduation, Danny still couldn't get a job and neither could Henny, which means both of them couldn't get job even after graduation. And to turn it into a sentence with inversion, just put neither for the second subject. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Okay, and the last one would be inversion with preposition. We can put the verb before the subject when we use adverbs expressing direction of movement such as along, away, back, or down and pair it with verbs such as come, fly, or go. These types of inversion is usually used to mark the change of event. So we use this in a sentence. For example, the car pulled up and out came Zari's father. For the second example would be the rocket launched safely and off it goes far into space. So we put the verb launch safely and off is a preposition. It goes far into the space to imply that the rocket safely launched into space. So for conclusion, I would say that inversion is a very interesting topic for me, and yeah, I had studied script writing before, and for me, learning this has strengthened my abilities to write stories or poem very beautifully. And yeah, this is my references, and I hope you understand what I'm saying. And thank you. I'll be seeing you in the next class.